Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Secretary Redu, will you please call the roll?
Regent Bartel.
Here.
Regent Brandley.
Here.
Regent Crane.
Here.
Regent Danae Davis.
Here.
Regent Stan Davis. Regent Drew. Regent Evers. Regent Falbo. Regent Loftus.
Here.
Regent Manydeeds.
Here.
Regent Pruitt.
Here.
Regent Schwallenberg.
Here.
Regent Smith.
Here.
Regent Spector.
Here.
Regent Vasquez.
Here.
Regent Walsh. Regent Wingad.
Here.
Regent Womack.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you. The minutes of the June 10th and 11th and July 23rd meetings of the Board of Regents have been distributed. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, they stand approved. Good morning, everyone, again. My keen eye detects that we have some visitors with us today. On behalf of this board, I'd like to extend our warm welcome to our special guests, the winners of the 2010 Regents Teaching Excellence Awards, as well as their families, friends, and colleagues, many of whom I see are over there. You all do the work that this board is here to support, and it is our privilege to offer this formal recognition of your dedication and success. Without further ado, I will turn the floor over to Regent Danae Davis, who will guide us into the awards presentation. Regent Davis.
Thank you, President Pruitt. On behalf of the Board of Regents, it is my sincere pleasure to welcome some of the distinguished guests this morning, our recipients of the 2010 Regents Teaching Excellence Award. Joining them in the gallery, as President Pruitt, where'd that come from, acknowledged are their families, friends, and supporters, and welcome to all of you. The Regents Teaching Excellence Awards recognize and honor some of the UW system's most outstanding teachers, departments, and programs. And I think all of us in this room understand what a valuable resource we have in our faculty and academic staff, those who bring the special dedication, creativity, and passion to their craft, and to whom we entrust the education and enlightenment of the citizens of the future. We are honoring these 3 award recipients today, 2 professors and 1 academic department, and this is the highest recognition bestowed on members of the UW System's faculty and academic staff for outstanding career achievements in teaching. So let me tell you, choosing these winners was not an easy task. And for those of us who've been doing this for a minute, it is one of the most fun, rewarding things that we ever get to do as Regents. Fortunately, I had some very fine help. I'd like to thank my fellow Regents, Regent Bartel, Drew, Vasquez, and Womack, for their thoughtful participation and wise counsel, and they made it a truly interesting experience as well. And I think I can speak on behalf of all of us on the selection committee when I say that we are truly impressed by the extraordinarily talented and dedicated people we have on all of our UW campuses. This year's winners are shining examples of what we mean when we talk about the ability of excellent teachers to change students' lives. While each of them goes about their work in unique ways, they also share several striking characteristics: a distinct philosophy of teaching and learning, a willingness to adapt and innovate in order to meet the needs of the students, a passion for their discipline, and a commitment to constant self-examination and improvement. Here's how things will work this morning. My fellow Regents on the selection committee will introduce the winners, and then each award recipient will have an opportunity to briefly address the board and all of us. I'd also encourage you to read the profiles of our winners that have been placed in the Regents folders and also distributed to chancellors, provosts, and others whom we are pleased to welcome here today as well. I've seen our winners I can't say that word, thank you. That one. And I can tell you that our remarks today cannot begin to do justice to the wealth of talent, dedication, and passion of these teachers. So without further ado, I'll now call on Regent Bartel to present our first award.
Thank you, Danae, and good morning, everyone. It's my privilege now to present our first 2010 Regents Teaching Excellence Award. This is to someone who helps us see numbers in a whole new light. In fact, whether we knew it or not, mathematics is something we all do, according to Jennifer Sidlick, our award-winning professor of mathematics at UW-Oshkosh. And Dr. Sidlick, I'd like you to please stand up and join me up here so that people can see you as I tell them about your accomplishments. And as she comes up, I want to tell you that from the perspective of the piano last night, this lady, she loves show tunes. She has a great voice. Do you use that in the classroom at all? I mean, some enchanted equation. Jennifer describes it like this. When we study the patterns and symmetry in artwork, we do mathematics. When we work on a puzzle that requires logical thinking, we do mathematics. When we solve a problem that allows us to quantify, generalize, organize, and find patterns, we do mathematics. It is natural for us to create and love mathematics as it is for us to create and love art, music, and literature. Her students absorb this passion. One of them said to us, "This class showed me that math did not need to be complicated and filled with rules and formulas, but a subject that is beautiful and full of logic and reasoning." With this award, Dr. Sidlick is recognized for her outstanding work as a teacher and author of mathematics education for more than 15 years at UW-Oshkosh. For those who are familiar with her work, this award comes really as no surprise. Among her honors, other honors, Dr. Sidlick previously received the Distinguished Teaching Awards from UW-Oshkosh in 2004 and from the Wisconsin section of the Mathematical Association of America. I didn't know there was such a Mathematical Association of America in 2009. She is nationally known for her research and publications on mathematics, most notably a McGraw-Hill Company series of textbooks for prospective elementary and middle school teachers, co-authored with a variety of colleagues. But students say it's not just math lessons that they get from her. They also acquire skills for learning, living, and reasoning. As one puts it, not only will the lessons I learned from her be useful in my future classroom, but they will remain with me for the rest of my life. If we're talking numbers, that sounds like a 10 out of 10 to me. Please join me in congratulating our first award winner, Professor Jennifer Sidlick.
We were asked to talk about teaching excellence, and I'm delighted to do so. But after that wonderful introduction from Regent Bartel, I had to give the caveat that while I aspire to excellent teaching, I often fall short of it in practice, so bear with me here. I once heard at a faculty college the university classroom referred to as a contact zone, a place where students and teachers wrestle with ideas. I love this metaphor because it conveys the fact that learning is often uncomfortable. In fact, for every moment of insight, there are many, many moments of confusion or frustration or even denial or anger. But I like full contact teaching. Go girl. Metaphorically, of course. I suspect that nothing that makes a difference gets learned gently. Excellent teaching means asking tough questions, and excellent teaching means taking risks. And furthermore, I believe that experiencing an idea is far more powerful than simply hearing about one. So with all that in mind, I'd like to demonstrate some full contact teaching. Ready?
Yeah.
It starts with a story. For Mother's Day, I received this little clay turtle from my 9-year-old son that he had made, and it was wrapped in the Wisconsin State Journal dated March 14th, 2010, on the very page that just happened to contain a list of the highest paid employees in the UW system. I don't get the Wisconsin State Journal, so this was just serendipity that this list came to me at Mother's Day. I learned that 5 of the top 10 employees are coaches or an athletic director, and 4 are our administrators. And I also learned that the lowest paid employee on the list of the top 10, an assistant football coach, makes approximately 5 times what a certain full professor at UW Oshkosh makes. In fact, only 1 of the top paid employees is a faculty member at all. And so there was a separate listing for the top 10 highest paid professors. The professors on this list were all described first and foremost as prolific researchers. Now, I value great researchers, and I value great administrators. And in our system, and at UW Oshkosh in particular, we have both. But I couldn't help but notice that regarding the employees on these lists, teaching was mentioned just once. One of the professors was, quote, also a popular teacher. Now, as a university system, we do highly value teaching. I know that. I have participated in our faculty colleges focused on teaching. Remember the contact zone? In our Wisconsin Teaching Fellows and Wisconsin Teaching Scholars programs, and these are important and they've made a difference for me. But would people in Wisconsin get the impression that we highly value teaching from this list data? The faculty themselves? I mean, the numbers, they speak pretty loudly. We faculty constantly must make choices about how to spend our limited time. And I worry sometimes that the tangible incentives, compensation and promotion and prestige, often nudge us toward research. And I wonder how we, as a system, might change that. Because teaching is such important work. The Regents Award for Teaching Excellence is a powerful expression in the support of teaching. And it's a tangible support of teaching. And I thank you. It's a wonderful honor. I know that you are not expecting a speech quite like this. And when I began it, the speech was all about the beauty of mathematics and my love and passion for sharing that beauty with the students of UW Oshkosh. But I suspected I'd only get one chance to speak to you, especially after the speech. And if I failed to say something that might make a difference, what kind of teacher would I be?
Exactly.
So, in the spirit of full contact teaching, I leave you with a tough question. Why on these lists of the most highly paid, the most highly valued employees of the UW system, are there no professors known first and foremost for their teaching? I thank you for listening, and I thank you for your support of teaching today.
Dr. Siddick, I only have 3 words for that. You go, girl. You've heard a little bit, just a little bit, about what an enchanting equation can be, or what marvelous math can be. But I want to talk to you just a few minutes about reaching for the stars. And I'd like to call Dr. Paul Thomas up to stand next to me. Thank you, sir. It is my privilege to introduce our second 2010 Regents Teaching Excellence Award winner, Dr. Paul Thomas, Professor of Physics and Astronomy at UW-Eau Claire. A native Australian, Professor Thomas has been part of the Eau Claire system for 2 decades. In that time, he has earned a major following on campus among students as well as his colleagues. He consistently earned high praise from students, even as they acknowledge him to be one of the most demanding and challenging teachers around. His ardent advocacy of a liberal arts tradition encourages students to see that science is inextricably tied to music, English, and history. Reflecting on his own teaching, he wrote, "I feel that many students come to Eau Claire eager for an intellectual experience that emphasizes and demands an in-depth learning in a specific field. But they also yearn for a wider perspective, linking their discipline to a broad sweep of human knowledge." Professor Thomas has been actively engaged in developing interdisciplinary courses with colleagues in other departments and calls this experience one of the richest of his career. He firmly believes that the only way to truly learn science is by doing science, and students have to be truly engaged in the subject matter if they're going to intellectually benefit from the experience. Professor Thomas also takes his science out into the community, and he has organized a popular series called Ask a Scientist. This free monthly outreach program, which started in 2008, features short presentations by scientists at a local coffee shop in Eau Claire, followed by open discussion. Typically, these sessions range from 50 to 70 people. He also offers planetarium shows at the L.E. Phillips Planetarium on campus. In addition to his outstanding teaching portfolio, Dr. Thomas is a nationally recognized researcher in physics and astronomy. When it comes to capturing what it is about Dr. Thomas that makes him special, listen to one of his students. Just by being in one of his lectures, you can tell that he loves the subject and that he's trying to make us love it too. His emphasis about the subject is infectious. And most days, you leave the lecture wondering where the time went. It is my pleasure and my honor to present to you Professor Paul Thomas. Thank you, sir.
See, Jen, you didn't have a tie. That was the thing. Regents, colleagues, and friends, thank you so much for this award. It means more than I can say. But given that I'm a professor, I'll take a crack at it. I'd like to make just 2 brief points today. The first is that what my career and my service to the state of Wisconsin is centered on is to take my students on an intellectual journey, a voyage of exploration. It's a big universe out there, but we're not alone, because voyaging with us are Galileo, Kepler, Copernicus, Newton, and Einstein. Einstein, who said, "One thing I have learned in a long life, that all of our science measured against reality is primitive and childlike, and yet it is the most precious thing we have." And if my career stands for anything, it's that principle. That's what I hope to excite in my students. That we have a huge unexplored universe out there to learn from, to add to the total of human knowledge. Primitive, childlike, but precious. And astronomers need to be humble. After all, they can't account for 96% of the mass in the known universe. I'll always remember a business student in my astronomy class, Cassandra, who self-identified it to me, in fact, before the class even started, as weak in math. Her words. In fact, she walked into my office one day and said, "Hi, Dr. Thomas, I'm Cassandra. I'm weak in math." I should have sent it to you, Jen, but I didn't know you at the time. And she agonized over whether she should take the course. In class, I mentioned that our current techniques for detecting planets around other stars seem to be revealing a very large number of strange planets. Hot Jupiters, we call them. Planets bigger than Jupiter, but closer to their sun than Mercury is to our sun. Not an obvious place for life. And I think I used that word. I called them strange. So her hand immediately showed. "Dr. Thomas, how can you say that? We don't know anything about other solar systems. We might be the strange one." Well, yeah, she was right. Her hand shot up a moment later, but I'll get to that in a minute. My second point is that what my career stands for, and I think one of the guiding principles of the great UW system, is that all knowledge is linked, that the U.S. liberal arts model, one of the world's strongest, and one I'm so proud to be a part of, has as its guiding principle that all knowledge is part of one inextricable weave, and you have to learn about it all together. The talented faculty of UW-Eau Claire, my colleagues, exemplify this in their teaching daily. And I'm so proud to have such wonderful colleagues, both at UW-Eau Claire and in the UW system. Just in the latest Chicago magazine, John Rowe, CEO of Exelon Energy, said, "I grew up on a farm in southwest Wisconsin. I went to a one-room country school for 8 years. I went to the University of Wisconsin, and I had a lot of mind-opening experiences. The University of Wisconsin gave me the opportunity to leave the farm." Like 40% of the incoming students at UW-Eau Claire this coming academic year, John Rowe and myself were first in their immediate family to go to college. I've never forgotten the debt that I owe to the public university system, both here and elsewhere, and I'm so proud to be a part of one of the best public university systems in not just the world, but the history of the world. And on that note, I applaud the principles for progress and prosperity that has been proposed by Regents Presidents Pruitt and Smith as a way forward to keep our system maintained for the future. You know, when I was an undergraduate about 80 years ago, a specific role model for me was my undergraduate thermodynamics professor, who had on his slate for the course that I was doing for the next few weeks, efficiencies of steam engines. This could have been dry as dust. Instead, he turned it into a history of the development of steam power, the great European empires that arose up in the 18th century. And that, for me, was a model that I try to follow in all of my courses, putting scientific development in context with historical development, with arts and with sciences. And whether it be a planetary science course I teach with my colleagues in geology, or a course on transhuman society and literature with my colleagues in English, computational science projects I do with my colleagues from the math department, or Ask a Scientist in a coffee shop in downtown Eau Claire, I'm strongly committed to collaborative teaching, and for me these have been the best experiences of my career. Now, a university that runs along traditional department lines is always going to have problems dealing with people like me. But throughout my career at Eau Claire, we've had very, very talented and encouraging leadership. And we figured out ways, at least in a limited sense, to break out of the departmental mold. And when I take a look at the new crop of professors at UW-Eau Claire, they get it. They realize that rigid department structures are a barrier to the sort of teaching that we want to do. So I'm very encouraged about the future. Cassandra's second question. Dr. Thomas, You said that we haven't detected radio signals yet. We've been looking for signals from other civilizations. The galaxy seems to be quiet. There's this great silence out there. Why? Do you think it's got something to do with these hot Jupiters, that maybe planets like the Earth at the right distance from the Sun are just really rare? Maybe that's it. Maybe there's nothing out there other than hot Jupiters. When a business major who says that she's weak in math can address fundamental issues of planetary formation and the origins of life in the universe, then I'd say that we're doing our job. I'd say that the state of Wisconsin is getting its money's worth. My answer? Well, Cassandra, that's a great question. Let's find out. My proudest experiences have been to watch the intellectual growth of my students in my classes and my lab. This is the center of my career and my life, and this gives it meaning. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Jeffrey, I think we are faced with a challenge. I don't sing. I'm not very much into dramatics, but I'm willing to try a little soft shoe if you're willing to do so. So please join me up here. Last but definitely not least, it is my honor to bestow the 2010 Regents Teaching Excellence Award for a department or program to the UW-Platteville Department of Biology, represented here today by its chair, Professor Jeffrey Hipshman, who is here. For a department that currently has only a dozen faculty and staff members, it is really doing big things. In recent years, under the leadership of Dr. Wayne Weber and Dr. Hipshman, the department completely overhauled its curriculum, top to bottom, based on a comprehensive vision for the future, a long strategic plan, and student learning outcomes. A guiding principle for the department is the belief that students of biology are not only expected to think and act like biologists, but to simply be scientists. The number of students majoring in biology at UW-Platteville has more than doubled in the past 10 years, increasing from 174 students to 360. At the same time, the department also provided critical courses to support general education requirements in natural science and the needs of students in other majors. More than 500 UW-Platteville students annually. UW-Platteville biology majors are regularly engaged in hands-on research, projects, and internships, which provide profound learning experiences. There are also opportunities for study in regions as diverse as the tropics of Costa Rica, the American desert Southwest, or the subarctic zone around Hudson Bay. You've probably seen some of the research work on display at UW System's annual Poster on the Rotunda event. Students rave about the dedication, collaboration, and personal mentoring of the faculty. One pre-med student said, and I quote, "One professor once told me, our job here is not just about getting you a degree, it is about developing future colleagues, ones that we will be proud of working with someday," end quote. The department has received more than 20 UW-Platteville and UW System awards for excellence in teaching and advising. No surprise that an interim provost and vice chancellor, Dwayne Marlin Ford, has called this group a department of all stars. I think we can see why. So now it is my pleasure to present this year's Regents Award for Teaching Excellence to Dr. Jeffrey Hipshman on behalf of the UW-Platteville Department of Biology.
Thank you very much, Regents. On behalf of the biology department at UW-Platteville, we are very honored and humbled to have received this award today. I brought up with me here to the podium some notes, which are all folded up now. And one of the things about being third in line is I hear the other folks speak. And first of all, congratulations to you both as well. Honored to have be sharing the floor with you both today. Some fantastic things that you're doing. As you saw, some members of the department have come with me today, and I would like to introduce the folks that are along here. Dr. Wayne Weber, former department chair, and Dr. Beth Frieders, faculty member within the department. Both Wayne and Beth are, despite appearances, senior faculty member within our department. The two of them have seen 7 new faculty members join our department in the last 10 years or so. And the two of them, I feel, are representative of the great things within our department. Both of them individually have won many teaching and advising awards, and more importantly, through their roles as department members and their modeling of teaching excellence, they have set a very high bar for the rest of us, and good things beget good things, and that's truly what has happened under the leadership of the two of them and others in the department. I would also like to introduce a former student, Corinne Shriver. Corinne, if you could stand up. It's a pleasure to have with us today a former one of our biology majors. Corinne is now a science teacher at Mesmer High School in Milwaukee, and it was truly a pleasure last year to have Corinne come to campus as a teacher herself with her own students to sit down with us as department members to hear about our program. She did that both semesters, and we look forward to continuing to work with Corinne and her students. After the events today, we're going to sit down and have a little powwow about what we have planned for the coming school year. So it's great to have Corinne with us today as well. Also joining us is a current student, Nikki Martinson. Nikki represents the future, right? Nikki has just recently applied to medical school. Nikki is a participant in a relatively new program called the Rural and Urban Scholars and Community Health Program that we at UW-Platteville are very pleased to be involved with, along with UW-Milwaukee, and it's a partnership with the School of Medicine and Public Health here in Madison. So Nikki has spent the last 2 summers in that program. During her first summer experience, she had the opportunity to shadow many of our local physicians in the Platteville area. This summer, she just recently finished 6 weeks of research experience paired with faculty members at the med school here in Madison, and we're really excited for all that her future holds, and we know it will be a truly bright one. Regent Vasquez actually said quite a lot of things that I have written down here, so I'm going to kind of continue to vamp as we go along. It was mentioned that Wayne Weber, our previous department chair, undertook many great things in his role as chair. One of the things that wasn't mentioned, which I felt was a critical thing, was one of the very first things that took place under Wayne's leadership was a revision of our departmental review process. Folks that are our faculty members know that oftentimes a departmental review process can result in once a year faculty getting really stressed out. And instead of creating a department of colleagues that are cohesive and on the same page, that experience can often be a divisive experience. So the very first thing we did was we revamped that experience to bring us all together. We want to be a group of colleagues the entire year through. And with that foundation, then we took upon some major tasks like a curriculum revision, which it was stated was really done from the bottom up, and a fairly significant undertaking, but one that we're very pleased with, and that we're continuing to correct and adjust into the future as we're learning more about how things are playing out. It was also mentioned that our department, in terms of majors, has in fact grown, and I can give actually updated numbers. This year we had 380 students majoring in biology at UW-Platteville. Along with that growth that's taken place, there has certainly been an increase in things like undergraduate research, scholarship of teaching and learning, grants that are coming in. All of those things are great, and we're really pleased about those things. Most recently, I'm happy to report that this fall we're going to actually be in some new lab spaces. And like one of my colleagues here, I would be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity standing before you all as regents to say, if you see in the future a Babel Hall renovation project come up, we want that finished as soon as possible. So and hopefully that's getting recorded somewhere. I would also like to introduce one other individual. We have several representatives of our school here today, but Dean Dwayne Ford has been a great advocate for our department. Both Wayne and I have worked closely with him over the years, and we're very pleased that he has been sort of by our side and a supporter of us and some of the things that we have done. I'd like to close just with some sort of very personal reflections. As a department chair, I regularly have the opportunity to meet with prospective students that are coming to visit our campus and decide whether Platteville is a place they want to be. And I always meet with those students and begin that conversation in the same way, essentially saying, as a student here in Wisconsin, you have fantastic choices in terms of places where you could receive your education. The UW system is a great system. There are also a whole lot of private schools in the state that are very good as well. And I say to the students, it's most important that you go where you want to go. I don't do a hard sell. I don't know. Sorry, administrators. Definitely not a hard sell. But I do mention to them, after I tell them it's very important to go where they want to go, I say that for me, as a faculty member, every day I feel like I've won the lottery to be a part of the department that I'm a part of. And it comes down to one simple thing, the people. It's difficult to put a formula on department success, but for us it's the one word, the people. The people of our department is what makes our department great. And one of the things about that is that I feel that as a department, we are all on the same page in what our motivation is. And that motivation is our students. We measure our success not in grants or publicity or salaries, right? We measure our success through the lives of our students. And when we see them succeeding, however that may be, in life, in our classes, in the world, we take great pleasure in that. I will leave you with that thought today. Thank you again on behalf of the Biology Department at UW-Platteville. We're very honored to have received you.
Good job. Jennifer, Paul, Jeffrey, thank you. I think we all now have a little better appreciation of just what this university system is all about and the kind of creative, see Jeffrey and his colleagues, insightful, see Paul, challenging, most definitely see Jennifer, and inspired, see all of the above teaching that's going on both in the classroom and beyond that make the UW the beacon of excellence in higher education, and you folks are just an extraordinary part of it. Congratulations to the selection committee for doing an outstanding job. Thank you. While we're on the topic of saluting outstanding performance, I have the perfect segue for our next agenda item, the board's recognition of the long and fine service of Pat Brady, the UW Systems General Counsel. After 31 years, Pat has decided to leave us, but we are obviously a far better place for having had her here and having known her. And I will turn to Regent Brent Smith to do the honors of recognition.
Thank you, President Pruitt. Well, before I read the resolution, for those of you who weren't there, I wanted to recount or summarize some of the activities of Wednesday night at Kate and Kevin's party for Pat. And because I think it showed all the speakers, and I can say performers that night, showed the tremendous respect and affection they had and we have for Pat, and it showed some of the different, certainly different aspects of Pat's career here at UW. I don't think this will be repeated on YouTube. I didn't see anybody taking a shot that night. But there was a group that started that tended, that I was trying to resemble the Beatles. President Riley was the lead, and the Office of General Counsel certainly helped out as the night went on. I'll just say what the chorus was of it was to the tune of Let It Be. It was Pat Brady, Pat Brady, Pat Brady, Pat Brady, don't retire until tomorrow, Pat Brady. That's how we started off Wednesday night. And then we heard from her travel companion, travel buddy, Debbie Durkin, with a few stories. We heard from Tom Stafford on behalf of the staff. And then we ended up with some very nice comments from Mike Spector on behalf of the Regents, including a resolution from Governor Doyle, which Governor Doyle apparently had a lot of information about that, including her affection for Chardonnay. That got into the resolution. I'm surprised the governor didn't mention that yesterday. What came through, there's many themes that came through the comments about Pat, but two were her loyalty and certainly her contributions to this institution we call the UW system, and two, her unflappability regarding whatever situation she might be under, whatever stress there might be. And indeed, I got to see that a couple times yesterday as well in a couple of meetings we were at. But those are certainly characteristics of Pat. You know, this job of general counsel is one that has a lot of characteristics, a lot of qualities you have to bring to that. Certainly the intellectual power, the good judgment that we all know Pat has is one. But there's another side of it, and I'll call it the political, maybe with a small p, because she serves a lot of audiences, a lot of clients, certainly the campuses, certainly the UW system, and even the 18 people who sit around this table, and as President Pruitt reminds us, some of them who are lawyers. So it is a task, and all of those jobs, all those audiences, all those clients, and she certainly excels at all of that. So when you put all this together, I think for Pat Brady, she has made tremendous contributions to the system and to the state, and we at this table and all of us in this room will miss her tremendously as a colleague and as an advisor. So I'd like to read this resolution of appreciation to Patricia A. Brady. And whereas Patricia A. Brady, a proud alumna of the University of Wisconsin-Madison and the University of Wisconsin Law School, has dedicated 30 years of service to the University of Wisconsin system, including the past 8 years as the third general counsel in the history of the UW system. And whereas her position as the university's chief legal advisor is the culmination of a productive and distinguished career in which she served as Assistant Attorney General in North Carolina, representing the state's Department of Public Instruction and the University of North Carolina, before joining the UW system in 1980 and rising through the ranks, being promoted to Deputy General Counsel in 1999, serving as Interim General Counsel on several occasions, and being promoted to General Counsel in 2002. And whereas Pat has demonstrated a broad mastery of higher education law, providing quality representation of the UW system in tenure and employment cases, advising on issues pertaining to affirmative action and diversity, student affairs, intellectual property, including the promoting the value of the services of UW System's Weiss's Technology Foundation, and teaching higher education law at UW-Madison for nearly 10 years, giving numerous presentations on that subject within the UW system and for national groups. Whereas she has been instrumental in developing important university administrative rules and policies, including the UW system's sexual harassment policy, code of ethics for unclassified staff, student academic misconduct policy, and discriminatory harassment policies. And whereas Pat has provided in-house support in constitutional law cases, including the United States Supreme Court case of Board of Regents versus Southworth, which established the university's right to require the payment of student fees so long as the fees are distributed in a viewpoint-neutral manner. And whereas under Pat's leadership, the Office of General Counsel has continued to provide high-quality training and legal guidance, helping staff system-wide at all levels better understand current legal issues. Whereas Pat has consistently offered thoughtful, judicious counsel throughout her service to the Board of Regents, the system president, administrators, chancellors, campus administrators, and other university colleagues, combining her legal acumen with a wry wit, both of which will be greatly missed. Be it therefore resolved that the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin System hereby offers thanks and commendation to Patricia A. Brady for her many life achievements and for her service to the University of Wisconsin System General Counsel, and wishes her a fulfilling retirement. Signed, Charles Pruitt.
Well, thank you so very much. When I see the length of this resolution, it really reminds you how long 30 years is. It's been a lot happening then, but it's mostly been fun, and it's always been interesting. So as I'm, kind of preparing to get on that glide path to retirement, I've been, reflecting back on my career and, all the many people that I've had the opportunity to work with and enjoyed meeting and having as colleagues all these years. But I've been also doing a little house cleaning, and one thing I came across not too long ago was a letter of welcome that I received from Bob O'Neill, who was the president when I started back in 1980. And he started roughly at the same time I did. And he was writing to say he hoped we would meet soon, and then he went on to say he hoped that my experience would be a pleasant and professionally rewarding one. And then he closed with, "University legal work is exciting these days and will probably become more so as we enter the 80s and beyond." And that's a massive understatement. There has really never been a dull moment or a dull day on my job. I think, that's one of the things that kind of keeps you going. The issues here are complex, they're all interesting, and you're working with so many great people who are so smart and so talented that it makes it a pleasure to work through the issues and the problems that there are. And it's also a terrific honor to be part of such a great institution. I think the governor said yesterday that the UW system is one of the finest institutions in the state, and I would say it is the finest. And it really is a great pleasure to have been a part of that for all these years. But again, it is the people. It always comes back to the people, as some of our honorees have also said today. And it's the chance to work with so many dedicated folks, everybody sitting around this table, your predecessors, the chancellors, their staff members, my system admin colleagues, and my own team in the Office of General Counsel. So I would just like to say a simple few thanks to all of you who've made my career so interesting. I've certainly enjoyed working with this board and previous boards, even with all the lawyers, which have added to my exciting time. I've been fortunate to work closely with two presidents, Catherine Lyle and Kevin Riley, and that's been a great pleasure to me also. And also Kevin's ace secretary and aide, Rita Sears, who was also one of my defendants about 15 years ago. I think we may have lost her case, but anyway, she got over it. She still came over here. I'd like to recognize my system admin and cabinet colleagues, and I'd especially like to recognize Rita Harris and Debbie Durkin, who are the stalwarts who have been in the cabinet with me for as long as I've been in the cabinet, so it's been great working with both of them. And then, of course, Al Christ, who there's a sort of singing theme today, and it's little known, but Al really can belt out show tunes, too, when we're on these road trips to Regent meetings. And he needs a little pressure, but, you know, he can really put it out there. And finally, but certainly most importantly, I want to thank my own staff in the Office of General Counsel. I've always said I have the best staff in the system, and I maintain that that's true. And these are the folks who have done the really, really hard work of doing the hard practice of law in the organization. My lawyer colleagues, Paige Reed, Jennifer Lattis, Chris Ashley, Tom Stafford, Ann Bilder, my recently retired, but now sort of semi-returned, former deputy Ed Alschuler. My thanks to all of them. And then the great support staff, Emily Gleason, Rita Richardson, without whom none of us could really do our jobs in the office. So I feel like I'm leaving you all in very good hands with this group, and I want to thank you all, and I wish you the best of luck as you continue the very important work you all do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Pat. This morning we are also saying farewell to another colleague, UW-Milwaukee Chancellor Carlos Santiago, who just days ago we learned that Chancellor Santiago will be heading to Washington, D.C. to become CEO of the nonprofit Hispanic College Fund. Carlos has served as UWM's leader since July 2004, and he leaves a most impressive legacy. Carlos has commented often he was brought here to transform UWM into a first-class second research university in Wisconsin. He leaves behind a legacy from which we will build and from which will come new momentum for UWM. That list of things to do certainly includes completing the Great Lakes Water Institute, the new Independent Research Center, the new School of Public Health, and the extraordinary possibilities still to be imagined at Columbia St. Mary's on the east side and Innovation Park on the west side of Milwaukee. Carlos, on behalf of the Board of Regents, we thank you for your outstanding service and wish you all the best for the new challenges that lie ahead. And here to do the official honors of expressing our appreciation, I will turn the floor over to Regent Jose Vasquez.
Carlos, it's a personal pleasure and honor for me to be the regent that will read this resolution to you. Before that, though, I would like to just make a personal comment. Living in Milwaukee County and working in the city of Milwaukee, one of the things that I have learned that it really takes very unique, talented individuals to be successful in that climate of Milwaukee City and Milwaukee County, in terms of the politics, in terms of the economics, in terms of the business community, the private sector, the unions. It's really a cauldron of a tremendous both opportunity and challenging environment. And I'm very, very pleased to note on a personal basis that my observations of Carlos is that he has really been very, very successful in maneuvering and swimming, and this may be from his Puerto Riqueño background in swimming very aptly among the sharks. I think he has been very successful in doing that. So, Carlos, it is my pleasure to read this. Resolution of Appreciation, Carlos E. Santiago. Whereas Carlos E. Santiago has served with distinction for more than 6 years as the 7th Chancellor of the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee from 2004 to 2010, and has devoted 30 years to public higher education, the last 10 as a senior leader for major research universities, and whereas during his tenure, Carlos Santiago spearheaded renewed emphasis on UW-Milwaukee's research mission while maintaining the university's commitment to provide access for all students, positioning the campus in the upper echelon of urban research universities, and whereas UW-Milwaukee experienced considerable growth under Chancellor Santiago's watch, seeing both enrollment and degrees granted grow by 12%, enrollment of Wisconsin residents increased by 8%, and doctoral degrees granted increased by 114%, with the number of doctoral degrees available growing from 20 to 30. And whereas under Chancellor Santiago's leadership, 2 new academic schools, the School of Public Health and School of Freshwater Sciences, were approved. The first new academic schools at UW-Milwaukee since 1975. And whereas Chancellor Santiago oversaw the implementation of a Access to Success, a campus-wide initiative designed to help students achieve greater success, resulting in overall retention rates increasing almost 4 percentage points from students' first to second years, and for students of color, retention rates increasing nearly 10 percentage points. And whereas Chancellor Santiago advanced the $240 million UW-Milwaukee initiative approved by the state legislature and Governor Jim Doyle, and consisting of 6 main projects designed to expand the campus and its ability to serve the region and entire state in research and innovation initiatives, health services, and region economic development. And whereas Chancellor Santiago led an unprecedented fundraising campaign, the Campaign for UW-Milwaukee, which ended 18 months early in January 2008 and raised $125 million, $25 million more than the target, and over $100 million more than the largest previous campaign over 2 decades ago. Be it therefore resolved that the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin System offers its sincere gratitude to Chancellor Carlos Santiago for his service and dedication to the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and the state of Wisconsin, and wishes him continued success as the new Chief Executive Officer for the Hispanic College Fund in Washington, D.C. Pero la última palabra, Canciller Santiago, tomando en consideración a dónde vas, es importante decir lo siguiente. A nombre de Presidente Riley, de Presidente Pruitt y del resto de mis colegas regentes, te deseamos buena suerte, mucho éxito y muchos años de felicidad en tu nueva posición. Thank you.
Mil gracias, Regente Vázquez. Mis comentarios serán en español. No. Just in English. Thank you all. It's with mixed emotions I come to you this morning. And I want to give my not only farewell, but my thank you, and begin with this board. When I was hired 6 years ago, and some of the regents that were on the subcommittee that hired me, Regent Davis, Regent Burmaster reminded me last night she was on the board. Regent Olivieri chaired it. Other regents were coming to the board. Regent Falbo was, I'll say, at the table. Regent Pruitt was, I believe, joining the board at that time. Regents Walsh and Bradley were on the board. And when I came, it was a university that did research. That's what UWM was. It was a very good university, a fine university that did research. And this board basically told me, you have to take that university that did research, that does research, and convert it into a research university. There's a huge difference between the two. And you have been supportive. I viewed everything I've done has been part of your mandate. You said, remember Regent Davis saying, we want a premier urban research university in the city of Milwaukee. And you have expressed your support in all the things that I have put before you. When I was told that it was almost impossible to get a PhD program through the Board of Regents, and they cited the history PhD and the bloodbath it was. And the truth is, I said it's going to be 2 PhD programs a year for the next 10 years to get to the close to 35 that we need to be at. Well, you have supported. We've gone from 19, and today you will approve the 30th PhD program. And I thank you for that. All of the initiatives that I have put forward before this board to accomplish your mission, you have supported. I couldn't have asked for more support from this group. UW system has been phenomenal. I came from a system, the SUNY system, which at the time I would say was pretty dysfunctional, and I was never viewed as a system guy. I was always the guy that fought the system. You have a phenomenal staff here. Kevin Riley was hired a few weeks after I was. I was Catherine Lyle's last hire. I believe I was her last hire, although I didn't have the opportunity to work with her. So I view myself as Kevin's chancellor. I've worked with Kevin over these last 6 years, and he has been just a beacon of support. I commiserate with Kevin. I ask for advice, and he's been a very good leader and a good friend. The staff as well. You know, Pat Brady and I are kind of walking out on the same day, and I will miss the arm wrestling with Pat Brady over Weiss's. I had to do what I did yesterday, Pat. You know it was the last dig, but I had to do it. The rest of the staff has been phenomenal. I need to single out David Miller, who is not here, but David has gone from a supporter of what we do to a believer in what we do. And I think his work on our capital project has been hugely important. Yesterday, Regent Walsh talked about Governor Doyle and his legacy. And he mentioned that the governor's legacy in higher education were 2 areas, access and research. Well, access and research are what define UWM. So I view the governor's legacy as part of the initiatives that we worked on is very, very important. The executive branch was hugely supportive. Across the aisle, Republicans and Democrats came together around the initiatives that we proposed, and I thank them all for that. My chancellor colleagues, they're a wonderful group. These are truly inspirational leaders. I say this with somewhat mixed emotions, but in the 6 years that I've been here, I've gone from the newest of 13 chancellors to today, where I am the 3rd chancellor in seniority. I've seen many chancellors, many exceptional chancellors come and go. I am now 3rd in seniority to Chuck Sorensen and to Rick Wells. And they have been first colleagues, then friends, and always mentors. They have been very helpful along the way. This is the best. I've been in higher education for 30 years. I've worked with a lot of presidents. This is the best group of chancellors that I have ever seen. They are committed, they are dedicated, and Wisconsin does a wonderful job of training us. By and large, maybe with the exception of Chancellor Hardin, the rest of us were presidents for the first time in this system. This is where we got our experience. This is where we cut our teeth, so to speak, as we moved forward. The accomplishments of the university I'm very proud of. Couldn't have done it without the faculty, staff, and students of the institution, obviously. They are the ones that have built this enterprise. When I arrived, there's a publication put out by the Center for the American University out of Arizona State University, and it ranks the top 200 public and private research universities in the country. And when I arrived in 2004, UWM was not on that list of the top 200 public and private research universities. By 2005, we broke in. We were number 200, and we were very appreciative. The most recent data is 2007. And it's 2007 data. We are now ranked 189th. We are leapfrogging over universities that are not standing still. We are now ranked 142nd in terms of doctoral degrees granted in this nation. We are ranked at 145th in terms of annual giving for an institution. The institution has made progress, and it has occurred because of your support and the hard work of our faculty, staff, and students. I predict that when the 2010 data come out, UWM will be right there around 175 out of the top 200. And that's a marvelous achievement for the institution and for what you have supported. We now have a goal. I think the goal should be that, and remember, Wisconsin only had one university, one comprehensive university in that top 200. Only one comprehensive university was there, and that was our sister institution in Madison. I think the goal for UWM should be to break that 100 list. We should be in the top. Wisconsin should have 2 universities in the top 100, and that's a goal that we should aspire. So I certainly thank all the faculty and staff that, yes, we've taken our budget cuts. We've had strategic investments which we've used very wisely. I remember, just as an example, when I got to Milwaukee, I had talked about a $100 million goal in external research over 10 years. I said, that's the goal. That's what we've got to look at. It's measurable, quantifiable. Let's go for that. We were at the time at 28 million. I remember sitting with the engineering school, and they were generating $4 million. And I said, it's 100 million. And the faculty member raised his hand. He said, so Chancellor, of the 100 million, how much does our school need to participate? And I said, you need to be around $20 million. And there was kind of a hush over the faculty. That school, this year, has generated $17 million worth of research. They can do it. They added a handful of faculty. They made good decisions. They reconfigured themselves in important ways. They collaborated, and they're on the move. The university this year will be approximately $70 million worth of contract research. We have $90 million worth of awards in this last year. It is on its way, and it will do great things for the city, the region, and the state. The final word is that, if you look at my academic career over the last 30 years, I have been the predictable president. I have gone from assistant professor to associate professor with tenure, to department chair, to full professor, to chair of the Senate, to dean of the graduate school, to associate provost and chief information officer, to interim provost, to provost and chief operating officer, and to chancellor. That's about as linear as you're going to get. And I think for the first time in my academic career, I've decided to do something different. I'm not going to another university. In some respects, been there, done that. I'm proud of the work that I've done, but I think, especially in this day and age, when in many respects, the fastest growing demographic group in this country is in certain respects under attack. The opportunities, there are too many that are willing to remove opportunities rather than create opportunities. And I think at this stage of my career, it's time for me to look anew, to take on a different challenge, to build, because that's what I do, I build, and to build an organization that's going to provide opportunities for Latino students across this country and in Puerto Rico. And I can tell you that if I get the support, even half the support, that the folks in this room have given to me, it will be a successful undertaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. We'll now move to the report of the President of the Board. The Wisconsin Technical College System Board report a written report has been provided. Are there any questions or comments? The regents on that board are Regent Stan Davis, Regent Evers, Smith, and Vasquez. I was just going to make a couple of very brief comments. As I said more than my piece at yesterday's meeting, we have a full day ahead. I did just want to make one more comment that I neglected to make yesterday as I was talking about the barnstorming tours and the the activity that's emerged around the principles for progress and prosperity. I do think it's important to note that the conversation that we asked for in that paper and that this board has asked for across the state about the relative priority of the University of Wisconsin is happening, and it has begun. There were a couple stories, copies of articles in your packet yesterday, including two editorials, one from the Oshkosh Northwestern and one from the Eau Claire Leader Telegram. I did just want to offer one quote, which I think sort of symbolizes that conversation that came from the editorial from the Oshkosh Northwestern. And they said, "To be sure, higher education is but one part of a comprehensive economic strategy. The UW system deserves credit for initiating the discussion in an affirmative proposal of what it believes it can deliver with stable funding from state government. It is a debate Wisconsin desperately needs to have." Couldn't agree more. I do also think that these meetings have achieved our goal of the beginning of that conversation, and I wanted to just be sure I recognized and thank in our most recent visits Chancellor Wells, Sorensen, Levin Stankiewicz, and Chancellor Van Galen, all of whom joined President Riley and I at these recent visits. We really do appreciate you being part of those. And I also just wanted to note once again that Dave Giroux and his colleagues are combing the state, along with the help of the chancellors and their staffs, to identify opportunities now and going forward to speak with local groups, chambers of commerce, Kiwanis, Rotaries, and others over the coming month, or shall we say 69 or 70 days between now and the time we elect a new governor and a new legislature. And I would once again encourage my colleagues on the board, if you're interested in being part of those, either locally or anywhere else in the state, you might want to identify that interest and signal that interest to Dave, and hopefully in concert with the chancellors, we can continue to spread this word in, if you will, to the grassroots going forward and invite this conversation. I think it's very important. Only other thing I wanted to note, just two quick notes about colleagues. First of all, I wanted to acknowledge and recognize that Regent Jose Vasquez organization, the Child Development Center of St. Joseph, was recently recognized, not too long ago, I mentioned days ago, with the 5-star rating, a young star, for excellence in childhood education by the Department of Children and Families, and congratulations. I also wanted to note, although I don't know where he went, that last month the Wisconsin Alumni Association, we will need to give him a lot of grief about this when he returns, the Wisconsin Alumni Association honored 10 UW-Madison alumni as Badgers of the Year. One of those honored was Regent Mark Bradley, who earned both his bachelor's and law degree from UW-Madison. The Badger of the Year Awards, which were established in 2004, honor UW-Madison graduates who have made a positive impact in their communities. Recipients are alumni who live in Wisconsin and make a difference as business or community leaders, volunteers, educators, philanthropists, or UW-Madison advocates. Now, if you look at that list, Mark Bradley qualifies at about 6 of the 7 qualifications. So we offer, in absentia, our congratulations to Regents. And I'll turn it over to President Riley.
Thank you. Thank you, President Pruitt.
Perfect. Missed it by this much, Mark. This much earlier.
Very good. Well, let me share some news from around the UW system with you, and this one is really, first one, hot off the press. On Wednesday, the U.S. Department of Commerce announced $32.3 million in federal grants to expand high-capacity Internet access in 5 Wisconsin communities. I'm pleased to report that the application process for this grant was led by our colleagues at UW Extension. The larger of the 2 grants will provide $29.9 million to expand broadband connections for public safety agencies, healthcare providers, schools, and community organizations in Platteville, Wausau, Superior, and the Chippewa Valley region. A separate $2.4 million grant will support education and outreach in the same 4 communities, as well as the Menominee Nation. UW Extension's role in all of this was to facilitate partnerships among the public and private interests involved, and that's not an easy task for any of you who have ever tried it, and to promote community engagement. It's a big project. Altogether, the grants will bring high-capacity Internet access closer for 139,000 households and 9,000 businesses by making it easier for private companies to provide last-mile service. Statewide, the network is expected to connect up to 182 institutions. So this is the Wisconsin idea, 21st century high-tech on steroids, and we're proud of it. So congratulations to our colleagues at UW Extension, and I especially want to recognize Provost Christine Quinn, who is here with us, who was in the middle of getting all this done. We also have some news from UW Eau Claire, and this will resonate very much, I think, with Professor Thomas's remarks earlier this morning. This fall marks the launch of an exciting new pilot program on that campus, one that aims to build a more coherent liberal education core. The program focuses on themed course bundles with the idea that students will address a big question by integrating perspectives from various disciplines. Students will choose from 6 themes addressing questions like, who are we and how do we define ourselves? How does consumerism shape our world? What is or should be our relationship with the planet? This pilot program, which will be available to 140 first-year students this fall, is part of a multifaceted liberal education reform project at UW Eau Claire, supported in part by a federal Title III grant of nearly $1.75 million received in October of 2009. Additional funding is provided as part of the Blue Gold Commitment. It's a very exciting program, and we salute all the hard work that went into getting the project off the ground. So kudos to Chancellor Brian Levin-Stankiewicz and his colleagues at UW Eau Claire. UW La Crosse is also making its mark. La Crosse students won 5 of the 6 Best Student Presentation Awards at the Society of Nuclear Medicine's 57th annual meeting recently in Salt Lake City. UWL nuclear medicine technology major Michael Pollack won the best student presentation overall and the best student presentation in the instrumentation category at the event, which draws thousands of nuclear medicine technologists, physicians, health physicists, and students from across North America and the world. Pollack, whose research focuses on cardiac positron emission tomography scans, is currently interning at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago. So congrats to Michael and the other winners, as well as Chancellor Gall and UW La Crosse. Looking north, the Great Lakes Maritime Research Institute at UW Superior has been awarded a $750,000 U.S. Environmental Protection Agency grant to help reduce air emissions from the Edwin H. Gott, a 1,000-foot ore carrier serving the Great Lakes. The Clean Diesel Initiative grant will also leverage more than $14 million of private investment supporting employment in Wisconsin and in Minnesota. The Great Lakes Maritime Research Institute is itself a consortium of UW Superior and the University of Minnesota Duluth, with 11 affiliate universities in the Great Lakes region. It has the mission of developing and improving both economically and environmentally a sustainable maritime commerce on the Great Lakes through applied research. So congratulations to Interim Chancellor Chris Marquardt and his UW Superior colleagues. We'd also like to extend congratulations to several of our colleagues who are taking on new appointments. Christine Thomas, who many of you know is Dean of the College of Natural Resources at UW Stevens Point, has been named by U.S. Secretary of the Interior Ken Salazar and Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack to serve on the Wildlife and Hunting Heritage Conservation Council. The new advisory council will keep the 2 federal departments up to speed on recreational hunting and shooting sports activities, as well as associated wildlife and habitat conservation. Hats off also to William Campbell, who has been a director of grants and research at UW River Falls for the past 20 years. Dr. Campbell was just elected to serve as president-elect of the Council on Undergraduate Research, the National Council on Undergraduate Research for 2010 2011. That council, with nearly 600 institutional members and more than 5,000 individual members, supports faculty development for high-quality undergraduate student-faculty collaborative research and scholarship. So congratulations to both Dr. Thomas and Dr. Campbell, and I think their busy schedules are about to become a lot busier. We also have news from Milwaukee. Backed by a $1.2 million federal grant, UW-Milwaukee has launched a Center for Advanced Materials Manufacturing that will support the transfer of UWM research in bulk nanostructured materials to the manufacturing industry in Wisconsin and the nation. And I think this is an important aspect of our research to jobs effort. We've said it's about creating new jobs and new industries that don't exist yet, but it's also about helping to advance our core industries in the state, such as manufacturing, into the 21st century. Oshkosh Corporation, a major supplier of tactical wheeled vehicles for the U.S. Department of Defense, is a partner in this new center at Milwaukee and will use the futuristic materials developed there to satisfy their needs in their vehicles. Nanostructured metallic materials, in case you wondered, are embedded with atomic scale particles that make them cheaper, lighter, and stronger than the original metal alloys. Nanostructured aluminum, for example, can be 10 times stronger than conventional aluminum alloys. The new center is expected to collaborate with more than a dozen businesses from around the Midwest interested in generating these new materials that have so many applications. This is a great example of what we've been talking about, as I said, in our Research to Jobs initiative, with very tangible benefits that can come out of this collaboration. So kudos to Chancellor Santiago and his Milwaukee colleagues. With a similar theme, UW-Whitewater is taking the lead role in administering a $5.9 million federal Economic Development Administration grant to help stimulate economic growth in southern Wisconsin and northern Illinois. The grant will help provide entrepreneurial support to businesses in 6 counties that were hit by the downturns in the automotive industry and also suffered as a result of the severe flooding in 2008. One example of how this grant could make a difference is with the UW-Whitewater Global Business Resource Center. The new program, subsidized by the grant, is designed to help small companies or entrepreneurs successfully enter the global market. Overall, this grant is part of a larger collaboration that will provide comprehensive entrepreneurial support at every stage of business development. Congratulations to Chancellor Dick Telfer and his UW-Whitewater colleagues. Speaking of impact, the Joint Legislative Council has approved its committee member appointments for the 2010 Ledge Council study committees, and I'm very pleased to report that the UW system will be represented on 13 of the 16 committees, with 23 members hailing from 9 different UW system institutions. These study committees, as you may know, are established during the legislature's interim period in even-numbered years to examine major policy issues. The committees are made up of legislators and citizens who are interested in or knowledgeable about the study topics. Quite often, the work of these committees leads to new legislation. So this is very impressive and important involvement by our UW colleagues. Again, the Wisconsin idea in action. So kudos to these colleagues for doing that and for putting that idea into action. We've also got good news from UW Green Bay, where it was recently announced that a $740,000 gift from Arjo Wiggins Appleton Limited will extend and expand a highly successful program in which local high school students monitor the water quality in area streams. The paper company's gift is expected to fund the Lower Fox River Watershed Monitoring Program for 3 more years through 2013. It will also increase opportunities for participation by minority and low-income students. Chancellor Tom Hardin says, quote, "This is a textbook example of partnership in support of education and the environment." Tom, I was thinking, since you mentioned textbooks in connection with this project, Regent Pruitt will no doubt want to hold down its costs, so you might want to use very small water samples as you work in the Fox River. I'm also pleased to share that College Planning and Management magazine has selected UW Oshkosh's Student Recreation and Wellness Center as the 2010 Grand Prize winner for Outstanding Design and Architecture in Education in the College and University category. The publication is the premier trade magazine for facilities design in education. Winners were selected on the basis of innovation and practicality that balance good design with providing excellent environment for students. This is the 4th time that the facility, which opened in 2007, has been recognized. So congratulations to Chancellor Rick Wells and his UW Oshkosh colleagues for this latest recognition. And Wells, you're just looking weller and weller all the time. Meanwhile, the UW-Madison Police Department's Badger Watch program has been honored as the nation's 2010 Neighborhood Watch program by the National Sheriff's Association. Badger Watch, which involved only 4 campus buildings when it began in 2002, is the university's premier crime prevention program. Modeled after the Neighborhood Watch programs developed in the late 60s, Badger Watch now encompasses more than 70 campus buildings and has more than 1,400 citizen volunteers. And the program relies on those trained volunteers to recognize and report crimes through identifying suspicious activities and behaviors. And Chancellor Martin tells me that we always have a number of these volunteers undercover watching the Regents closely during these meetings. The department, by the way... As we found out yesterday, she was watching me, too. The department, by the way, notes that it is celebrating a 36-year low in the campus crime rate. So congratulations to Chancellor Biddy Martin, Chief of Police Sue Reisling, and the UW-Madison campus. Finally, we hear a lot about the different and exciting opportunities that many of our UW students from around the system participate in as interns. There's more and more of that going on. They work in hospitals and law firms and research labs, businesses big and small. But here's one I'd never heard of before. It's been reported that 4 UW Stout students got highly coveted positions this summer as swampers. It turns out that swampers is the affectionate name given by the Professional Golfers Association to its dozens of college interns. For the UW Stout Swampers, also known as operations assistants, this has meant working at the PGA Championship this past week at the Whistling Straits Golf Course, north of Sheboygan. The work might not be very glamorous. They were doing everything from setting up fencing to unloading furniture and supplies for the media and the hospitality tents. But those students also had the chance to be in the company of 150 of the world's best golfers at an event that drew tens of thousands of spectators and, of course, was broadcast worldwide. For these lucky 4 students, who are among the 200 students who are now in UW Stout's Golf Enterprise Management program, it also offered invaluable hands-on experience. So all in all, not a bad gig, and I learned that being swamped can be a good thing. So, with that, I'll turn it back to President Pruitt, who always stays in the middle of the fairway.
Right. Thank you, President Rao. We will now turn for the report of the Education Committee. Regent Crane.
I'm going to give my report this morning in 2 sections. The first will be a brief report of the joint meeting of the Education Committee and the Business, Finance, and Audit Committee on the subject of which was the Wisconsin Partnership Program. And since most of the board, or much of the board, was at that meeting, I probably can do this fairly quickly. This was a meeting in which we welcomed Dean Robert Golden of the UW School of Medicine and Public Health as he presented the 2009 annual report of the Wisconsin Partnership Fund for a Healthy Future, which we usually refer to as Wisconsin Partnership Program. And I would remind you that this was not an action item. This is a report that we receive annually, and you received quite a few materials about this ahead of time. The annual report describes the activities leading to the awarding of grants and all of these acronyms have finally become familiar to me. The Oversight and Advisory Committee, or affectionately referred to as OAK, the Medical Education and Research Committee, MERC, and these are projects that advance the population health in Wisconsin. This was the first report under the new 5-year plan that was approved by the board in 2008. The new plan strongly emphasizes the expansion of community engagement and the reduction of health disparities. We heard about a number of very interesting programs. In 2009, the partnership program increased its efforts on one strategic initiative, which is tackling infant mortality among African Americans. It also selected a new direction, the prevention of obesity and the promotion of physical activity and good nutrition for increased attention as they move forward.
Dean Golden highlighted some of the individual grants made by both Oak and Merck. And since there has been a strong track record since the inception, the program has awarded more than $90 million through 200 initiatives to faculty, nonprofit organizations, and government agencies. It is also, and this was commented on by several who were in attendance, the program has resulted in very good leveraging of its grants to bring in additional funding from other sources, especially federal. In June, we heard from Dean Golden, and at that time we were presented with LAB's review of the Wisconsin Partnership Program, and the Dean yesterday provided an update on the ways in which the program has responded to the audit findings. He reminded us that overall that audit found that the School of Medicine and Public Health was in compliance with the Insurance Commissioner's order, and that there were recommendations that were made, and the partnership is doing a couple of things in response to that, such as revising its conflict of interest policy and working with its grantees to ensure that they better meet their project outcomes. He also, there was some comments and discussion about LAB's manner of judging grants solely on whether or not they meet their initial objectives, and that was not necessarily the way the research process should entirely be evaluated. Nevertheless, a large majority of the partnership's grants were meeting their outcomes. He expressed support for appreciation for the responsibility for this very important work, and we had an interesting session on this. And I think at this point, President Pruitt suggests that we take, if there are any questions about that, since it is from two committees.
Sure. Questions?
Okay.
Go ahead, Regent.
I was just wondering if Dr. Golden mentioned if, in fact, the objectives stated by the receivers of the grant wouldn't be a part of the expectation or a part of how you would measure the success. What would?
Well, this was a discussion about how research is evaluated, and Danae, I remember you made a comment at that point based on your own experience.
Yeah, what I said was we receive the Medical College of Wisconsin's equivalent of those grants, not the research, but the community projects. And it is very often, I believe our experience is very typical, I should say, and our is Pearls for Teen Girls. Experience is typical, and that is that at the initial application stage, you may set forth a group of outcomes, but as you do the research and do the project, you determine that the impact you had either deviated or went in a different direction, and so you're still being held accountable for the outcomes, but there should be a flexibility to recognize the true impact that the project is having as well. So it's not to be rigid on what you said you were going to do in the beginning, but as you did the project and the research revealed that there is an even greater level of impact, that should be taken into consideration. That's one of the things that I think they should do.
All right, then I will move on to the report of the Education Committee, and I would like to say that I appreciate very much the opportunity to chair that committee this year, and I am very grateful for the other people on the committee who are Regent Danae Davis and Jose Vasquez and Tony Evers, who was not present this time. And we welcomed Jessica Schwallenberg. I'm very glad that she's a part of the committee, not only because of who she is, but also because she's a student, and it's been several years since this committee has had a student representative, and I think this is really important. I will deal with the consent agenda at the end. So the first item I'll deal with is the presentation of a PhD in linguistics, the 30th we heard today at UW Milwaukee. We had a definition from the linguistics department chair, Dr. Fred Ekman, and he described, he had defined linguistics as the search for understanding and explaining how human beings are able to talk. And my immediate comment was he came to the right place. I have been known in my own circles as a talker, but I've met my match at this group. But it was very interesting to hear about this program. The program's primary focus will be on preparing graduates in applied linguistics for the workforce and for continuing to study onto doctoral study. There is a growing demand for applied linguists. The program is distinguished by faculty with national and international reputations and success in attracting extramural extra funding. In fact, the committee also yesterday, and this will be on the consent agenda as well, an MA degree in linguistics as part of their program. The committee felt strongly that both these degrees would be good additions to UW-Milwaukee's graduate program, and they will be on the consent agenda. The next item that we dealt with was an expansion of a contract of one of the UW-Milwaukee charter schools. With us was Dr. Bob Catman, director of the Milwaukee office, the UW-Milwaukee Office of Charter Schools. There was he presented the requested contract expansion for the Milwaukee College Preparatory School. The committee did vote unanimously to approve the request, and that will be on the consent agenda. We did have a considerable discussion about this, and I want to make a couple of things clear. This is an amendment to a current charter school contract with the Milwaukee College Preparatory School. This will allow that school to expand for 2 years to a second site in order to accommodate students who were recently displaced, if you want to use that word, by a termination of the Academy of Learning and Leadership School's charter contract. And that charter school did operate under the city of Milwaukee. We have talked about replication of charter schools within the UW-Milwaukee charter schools, and that issue will be on an upcoming agenda probably in October. So this is not a replication. This, in fact, is an expansion of the contract of a current school. This was carefully reviewed both at UW-Milwaukee, and the committee was satisfied that that was so, and also by the system general counsel, and it comes with the recommendation of Chancellor Santiago and Provost Britz. This has not been a comfortable or an easy process because it was in such an abbreviated timeline. The announcement of the closing school of the school was only recently made, and so that the preparation for this expansion has taken place with the knowledge of the system, understanding that it was dependent on ultimate approval by the Board of Regents, and we need to make that perfectly clear. This is not a comfortable situation, I think, for anyone involved, but was dictated by the situation. We do consider this an extraordinary circumstance. The principal of the Milwaukee College Preparatory School, Rob Rao, was present yesterday, and he is highly regarded. We also took note of a letter that was also in the, received by all regents, by Regent Evers, about his views on this, and he obviously is a member of our committee, as well as has a broader responsibility for charter schools. So you've already seen that. Some of the suggestions and commentary within his letter also were dealt with later as we talked about the priorities for our committee in the next year, and we will be dealing with that. So with that summary and with the approval of the members of the Education Committee, that will it was unanimously approved and will be on the consent agenda. We then dealt with the report of the Senior Vice President, and that included a discussion on inclusive excellence, and we had a presentation from UW-Whitewater that was really very inspiring and exciting. And the participants in that were Provost Bev Copper, Dr. Lauren Smith, Chairman of the Department of Women's Studies, and Dr. Richard McGregory, who's the interim Director of Academic Support Services. And we had a very, very fine discussion out of that. We then began a discussion on priorities for the committee, and I could summarize some of that, but I don't think I'll do that. I'll just say that we began our discussion about this. We had some excellent response by provosts who were at the table, who gave us some very thoughtful suggestions. We did focus our discussion around a core strategic goal of more graduates, which sounds familiar, I'm sure, to the board. And in order to continue that discussion, we are going to be in communication with the provost in the next weeks, and we would also welcome any other ideas that other members of the board may have about what we ought to be focusing on, and we'll talk about that at a further meeting. So I present now the consent agenda of the Education Committee, Resolution 11A2, which was the approving an appointment to the UW School of Medicine and Public Health Oversight and Advisory Committee. That person is Dr. Patrick Remington. Resolution 11C3, authorizing a master's and MA in linguistics at UW-Milwaukee. Resolution 11B, authorizing the PhD in linguistics at UW-Milwaukee. Resolution 11C, approving the amended charter school contract with the Milwaukee College Preparatory School to allow expansion to a second site.
Those have been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a request to remove any item from the consent agenda? If not, any discussion on any of these matters? If not, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are agreed to.
We would like to be on record that we finished precisely at 3 o'clock.
And the entire board.
It wasn't easy.
Before we turn to business finance, I just wanted to note the temperature in the room, which is, I don't know if anyone else has noticed, a little warm. And I would suggest to Chancellor Martin that while it is true we are funding only 75% of the cost of new students in our budget proposal, I'm not sure it is fair that in response you have allotted 75% of the energy available to air conditioning and Van Nuys. But if that is the case, good move. Use it every day. Report of the business. Report of the Business Finance and Audit Committee, Regent Smith.
We were done at 2:35, but we first took up the subject of interim appointments and a change to amendment to Region Policy Document 6.4. President Pruitt, Secretary Perdue joined us and presented proposed changes to the Region policy regarding certain screen activity for certain senior executive positions. The additions to the board policy, I think, can be summarized that we're putting into writing what has been followed in practice, which prescribes a consultation with board leadership and it adds a limitation on the term of the interim appointment, 3 years. We discussed the proposed changes and approved Resolution 12B. And I think you have that particular addition in your packet. So we secondly went on to talk about the Licensed Technology Foundation. The aforementioned Pat Brady indicated the Core Job Act created the Wisconsin Small Company Advancement Program, WSCAP, which included $2 million appropriation to the Board of Regents and provision that WISIS administer the program. Changes the Board's agreement with WISIS would allow all but the inventor's share of licensing revenue generated from WSCAP funded projects to be directed towards repaying the WSCAP grant investment in order to create a revolving fund. The committee approved that resolution. We also approved another resolution, 12C2, allocating $2 million to WISIS for funds appropriated by the state as part of the Core Jobs Act. We heard from Julie Gordon, an update on operations review and audit. She went through some of the projects that they are now working on. These include the student evaluation of instruction, prior learning assessments, student assistance loans, service learning, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, NCAA Division III athletic departments, and the Enterprise Risk Management Pilot Project. It wouldn't be a business finance meeting without a human resource system project update. This was Michael Morgan's first, and he provided an update on the status of the UW system HR system project through June 30th, 2010. It was a good report, positive. He indicated phase 1 of the project was completed in FY10 and included development and modifications. Phase 2 of the project includes system testing and integrated testing. Early efforts are going well. We actually ended up fiscal year 10 with a $500,000 surplus. Challenges that remain are in staffing, especially with the departure literally the last week of a key Huron staff person. There is a provision, and that has been in the contract, Tom Andrews and others negotiated, that provided that when you have a key person depart, that has to be filled within 10 days, and it has. Meeting with that person who actually had a project, so that was the key person, in the very near future. Michael also talked about his recent conversation with Huron CEO Jim Roth regarding the status of the SEC investigation, and we talked about that and the overall fiscal health of the company, both of which were good. The project, the bottom line, remains on time and within budget. Ed Meachin, as required, told us about major information technology projects. In addition to the Human Resource System project, we've got a legacy budget system, the Identity and Access Management project, and a student information system at UW Eau Claire underway. We took up 2 contracts for UW-Madison. One was the 5-year athletic apparel equipment and sponsorship agreement between the institution and Adidas America. The second was a 6-year data research analysis agreement between the institution and Pfizer. After some discussion on both, they were approved. The resolutions approving both of the Adidas contract and the Pfizer contract. Finally, we had a quarterly report on gifts, grants, and contracts. Debbie Durkin indicated total gifts, grants, and contracts for this fiscal year for 09-10 were $1.621 billion, which is an increase of $212 million over the same period prior year. Federal awards were up around $300 million, driven, of course, by increased research funding from the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. On behalf of Business and Finance and Audit, I now move adoption of Resolution 12B, which is the amendment to Region Policy Document 6-4, Search and Screen Procedures for Chancellors, Senior Vice Presidents, and Vice Presidents. Resolution 12C1, amendment to the agreement between WISIS and the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin System. Resolution 12C2, approving the allocation of $2 million to WISIS Technology Foundation from funds appropriated by the state for purposes of providing support to WSCAP. Resolution 12G1, approving an athletic apparel equipment and sponsorship agreement between UW-Madison and Adidas America, Inc. And Resolution 12G2, approving a data analysis research agreement between UW-Madison and Pfizer.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a request to remove any item from the consent agenda? Is there any discussion about any issues on the consent agenda? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
That's our report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We now move to the report of the Capital Planning and Budget Committee. We're doing really well here, folks. I would call on Regent Jeff Bartell.
Thank you, President Pruitt. The Capital Planning and Budget Committee concluded its exciting meeting at 2:03.
You started early.
And then we hung around and listened to the boring stuff of the other committees. The committee approved the following 7 resolutions that were unanimously approved by our members, Regents Loftus, Drew, Stan Davis, and our newest member, Regent Menydeens. And I present these as consent resolution now. Resolution 1.3.B was brought by UW-Madison requesting authority to construct the Wisconsin Energy Institute Phase 1 project at a cost of about $56 million, including about $5 million of gift and grant funds. This project involves a 5-story building at the intersection of Campus Drive and University Avenue to house research labs and offices to support the Wisconsin Energy Institute. The goal of the Institute, which is a federally supported partnership between UW-Madison, Michigan State, and several others, is to address the pressing need to create renewable energy in a sustainable and economically viable manner. Director Tim Donahue joined us and described for the committee the Institute's progress in developing processes to convert plant biomass into ethanol and other motor fuels without using starch, which is the food portions of plant products, thus avoiding competition with the food industry. This is very interesting stuff. These technologies will encompass sustainable energy crop production and new generation processing methods to yield clean, renewable fuels. Other forms of sustainable energy production, such as solar and wind energy, will be also researched at this facility. The building will bring together in one place researchers working in many places on the Madison campus in a variety of disciplines. And the facility will be designed to maximize compliance with U.S. Green Building Council's LEED Green Building Rating System. Resolution 1.3.C was also brought by UW-Madison, requests authority to construct the second tower of the Wisconsin Institutes for Medical Research project. This is a $134.8 million project funded 50-50 split of general fund supported borrowing and gift funding. This project is a second phase of a larger WIMR, refer to it as WIMR, Wisconsin Institute for Medical Research project, and will build a 7-story research laboratory tower on a 3-story base to provide research space for the School of Medicine and Public Health. And this will include the Eye Research Institute, Oncology, Cardiovascular and Regenerative Sciences, and the Molecular and Neurosciences research groups. This project will integrate sustainable practices and will be LEED certified as a requirement of the funding received from the National Institutes of Health. It was already enumerated as part of the 2009-11 capital budget. Resolution 1.3.D, also brought by UW-Madison, requests authority to request a lease space in a building to be constructed specifically for the Belleville Family Medicine Clinic. This building will be built and owned by something called the Madison Family Medicine Residency Corporation on land donated, privately land donated to the corporation. The corporation is a nonprofit entity comprising a partnership of UW School of Medicine Public Health, UW Hospitals and Clinics, Dean Medical Center, Meriter Hospital here in Madison, St. Mary's Hospital in Madison, UW Medical Foundation, and the cities of Madison, Belleville, and Verona. The clinic has outgrown its present space. It has a facility there, and the new, larger facility will provide appropriate space and incorporate the latest in healthcare design equipment and other innovations, and UW School of Medicine residents will staff this clinic as part of their medical training. Resolution 1.3.E requests approval of request by UW Milwaukee to purchase the Columbia St. Mary's Hospital campus, a site of approximately 11 acres and existing facilities at a cost of $20.2 million, which consists of $5 million general fund supported borrowing and $15 million program revenue supported borrowing, which is, that price is the average of two independent appraisals, which is generally what the Regents purchase property at. Chancellor Santiago mentioned this morning that this acquisition is one of the key opportunity sites for the university, and it offers the UWM ability to add contiguous space to the landlocked Kenwood campus. Vice Chancellor Christy Brown came and told us about the campus committee that will recommend guidelines to determine the best potential uses of this property, which could include such things as student services, health sciences, other science uses such as technology, engineering, and mathematics. Following the acquisition, it is likely that renovations of the building for the campus use will be incremental and will take place over a number of succeeding years. Resolution 1.3.F, which is brought by UW Oshkosh, requests authority to increase the scope and budget of the new residential hall project on that campus by $1.7 million program revenue supported borrowing, which is a total cost of $33.2 million. This is a 340-bed residential facility primarily for sophomores and juniors on that campus. It was originally enumerated as part of our 2007-09 capital budget. Resolution 1.3.G, brought by UW Stout, requests authority to increase the budget of the Memorial Student Center renovation project by about $1 million, program revenue supported bonding, and construct the project. This is a $19 million project that remodels substantially space in the center of campus to improve a deteriorated infrastructure and reconfigure space to serve current functional needs of the students. UW Stout student leader Phil Rizzo came, and he's back in the back row there, I see. He told us very nicely about how extensive involvement the students have had in developing this program, the concept, creating the design, choosing the materials and color scheme, and basically determining what goes where and what program will take place in that building. He gave us a very attractive brochure about this renovation project, and there are extra copies available if you're interested. The students approved the segregated fee increase for this project, which amounted to a cumulative increase over the next 3 fiscal years of about $172. Resolution 1.3.H, brought to us by UW Superior, requests a small $300,000 increase in the budget of the Rothwell Student Center project. Bids were received for the parking lot portion of the project. They were a little higher than what was expected, and that accounts for the $300,000 increase. Those were the 7 resolutions passed unanimously by the committee, and I now move adoption of resolutions 1.3B, C, D, E, F, G, and H.
Is there a second? Is there a request to remove any item from the consent agenda?
I just want to be able to say something about Columbia after we're done.
Okay. That'll be coming very shortly. Any other request? If not, we move to discussion. Regent Spector.
I just want to say that I have followed the Columbia situation from the time I was on the board, and I want to commend all the people who have worked so hard to make this a reality. I think it is of great importance to the university in Milwaukee, not just for what Jeff enumerated as more short-term things, but as a long-term possibility. When you add 11 acres out of 90, essentially landlocked situation, it's of great value going forward, I think, to giving a chance to be creative. I especially want to congratulate Carlos and David Gilbert and Christy Brown on the UWM side for their work on it, but not to ignore the Columbia people as well. I had spent some time informally with Mason Ross and Leo Bordeaux, Bruce Block, Max Rosansky, and I think they really did an excellent job of realizing that this was not only in the best interests of Columbia St. Mary's right now, but of the community, and that the university is a very important part of the community, and they made a contribution to it in a business-like way. Finally, of course, the system people, Chuck and Kevin, but I would really, with your permission, single out David Miller for just a terrific job here of bringing together people to reach a conclusion where Columbia St. Mary's original hopes were much higher, where the economy changed dramatically after the discussion started. And I think his calmness and his insights and his credibility with the people should not be ignored. He just did a terrific job. Thank you.
And thank you, Regent Spector, for all your great work on this. Regent Falbo.
Just to add to that a little bit, I agree with everything Mike said, and I'd like to thank everybody involved for their restraint on this project. I think that meant, in the long run, a much better value for our system, much better value. So the patience was a very big part of this.
Any other discussion on any other item on the consent agenda? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
A few other items for President Pruitt. Director of Facilities Planning, Kate Sullivan, who's sitting right over there, staffed the committee yesterday, reported that the Building Commission approved about $421 million for projects at its June and August meeting, and also she also reported that the building lease of offices housing the capital planning and budget staff and other system functions located right behind the Cole Center, you may know, on Regent Street, is being, the lease is being amended and extended to provide substantial upgrades and improvements on very favorable terms to the university, with an option to purchase at the end of 7 years. I think it's a very favorable outcome for the university and particularly for capital planning and budget. And I want to add congratulations to David Miller on this accomplishment, which he was very, very much involved in, as well as all of the Milwaukee Initiative achievements that have been that we've seen in the last several months. He has been instrumental in holding all of that together through some very difficult and political upheavals. David, as you know, he leads the system capital planning and budget staff, and I wanted to mention that with President Riley's approval, David has been accepted in and has begun his course of study at the UW Business School's Executive MBA program. He will be doing that as he continues his work on behalf of the system. He told me that for the first week of classes, which just began this last week, he was required to stay at the Fluno Center, to live at the Fluno Center. He's always...
Pretty nice place.
Yeah.
This is not hardship.
That's a hardship.
Let's be clear.
No, it isn't. But it's been a long time since he's been a student, and it's kind of a hazing that he's going through over there. But he will continue to serve the committee, and with Kate's backup and support, will continue to serve the system. He will be in that program for 2 years, so congratulations to David as he goes back to school and works on his advanced degree. And Mr. President, that concludes our remarks.
Thank you. Any communications, petitions, or memorials? Is there any unfinished business or additional business to come before the board? If not, okay. If not, look like Regent Bradley, you look like you had some unfinished business, and I was just looking.
I have lots of unfinished.
Yeah, we want to hear about it right
And
now.
you're a badger. You're one of the 10 badgers of the year, so you can have as much unfinished business as you want. But if not, we will take a 10-minute recess, and we will then reconvene in open session to move to closed session. Thank you all.